Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and always a delight and a mystery to have with us Bob Just. Yes, if I was to put all the titles below his name, it would take up the whole screen. But we're just going to go with Cool Dude. Actually, he heads up Concerned Fathers, and he also is. You see him on the Hannity show, television show. This guy's been to Hannity Studios. He has hosted the Sean Hannity radio show. How come they call you and they don't call me?
Hey, I've been your co-host.
Yeah, but I'm on the right, you're on the left. How come they call you?
I'm on the left. I love that. Yeah, that was funny. I was probably Hannity's first conservative, first Democrat. So it took me a while, I think, to persuade the audience I was a conservative. But
yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Welcome.
That was great
you.
fun.
Where you been hiding out?
Hiding out in wonderful Grants Pass. Serve Grants Pass. Hey, by the way, Serve Grants Pass is coming up soon.
Yeah. Well, listen, you are here because of an incredible thing that you do with concerned dads and moms and students.
And youth.
Birthday. How in the world did this come about? It's turned out to be a huge event.
It's really exciting. We just found out that cavemen are going to visit our event, so everyone's pretty excited about what's going on. Well, you know, Perry, I don't even remember if I told you the story. Early in my marriage, many years ago, I was very cynical about birthdays as a young man, and my wife loved birthdays. Wendy just loved birthdays, and she completely turned me around on birthdays because, you know, I was thinking cake, another year, you know, and she said, no, you're celebrating that person's alive. You are celebrating that person exists. And it completely turned me around. I'd never thought of it that way. And I never forgot that. And so about 14 years ago, I thought of the idea that, hey, what if we celebrated everybody's birthday on the same day? With the purpose of multiple purposes. I mean, for one thing, if you go into the schools, and that's what we do, we go into the schools and serve ice cream sundaes and wish all the kids happy birthday. And it's birth-day as in Earth Day, you know, it's birthday. And it's just taking off. I mean, the first year we launched it at New Hope Christian School in 2012, and then last year we did 4 schools, including 2 public elementary schools, Jerome Prairie and Madrona. And we did video, and we showed everyone the video, and they said, this really looks like fun. So this year we're in about 5 elementary schools. We're going to be in the middle school, Lincoln Savage Middle School. And we're going to be in Grants Pass High. So the men, Concerned Fathers Against Crime, Concerned Mothers Alliance for Children, they serve the elementary and middle schools. Concerned Fathers is going into Grants Pass High, and in the space of 1 hour, we're going to be serving somewhere between 1,200 and 1,700 kids ice cream sundaes. That's a lot of ice cream. Yeah. Umpqua has given us a break on, a discount, and we're going to be serving.
This sign is being posted in the high school. There has never been another you, and there's never going to be. Happy birthday.
That's right.
And so, all right, they're going to get a free ice cream sundae. What's the message you're trying to give them?
Well, you know, really, it is their uniqueness. See, even in a secular realm like our public schools, there are a lot of kids who, like me, came from, as you know, a secular broken home, okay? And the idea of uniqueness is, and science says, it's, you know, obviously the Bible says, but science also says, there's never been another you, and there's never going to be. So for a child who has never thought of it that way, to be told that they are that unique is a step away from saying your life is a gift. Now, you're unique. What are you going to do with that uniqueness? What are you going to do with your special gifts, your special skills? Well, that's, you know, a biblical truth, and it's a good way to challenge young people to think differently about themselves. The kids especially who come from broken homes and may have not a very good self-image, you know.
How did the school respond to this? The officials and
I mean, Grants Pass High has got, across 6th Street, we had a sign saying, "Happy birthday, everybody," which is a quote from one of the kids in our first year. Happy birthday, everybody, and it says concerned families serving local schools. And the sign was up over Easter week, which was just a blessing, because I walked in and said, what can you give me in late April? And said, well, we can't give you late April, but how about mid-April? I'll take it. And it turned out to be Holy Week.
Wow.
How wonderful. So it was up on Easter. But when it came down, Grants Pass High now has it on the fence in front of their building. So, and it says, happy birthday, everybody. And they're very excited. They put the sign up. They told me, they said, look, we have 1,700 kids. How are we going to deal with birthdays? It's too big an issue. And of course, some kids have their birthdays during the summer. Some kids don't get invited to the cool parties. Some kids don't have much of a birthday at home just because of the awkward circumstance of a broken home or whatever, or poverty, you know, whatever it is. And so this is a day we can say, happy birthday.
Wow.
And it's, by the way, not just for kids. So on May 1st, I may call you and say,
really?
Perry, happy birthday.
Okay, well, I thought you and I are past that. Okay, so
good point, Perry.
How logistically is the schools going to like a rally or something?
Well, no. You see, the thing is, and also I have to say, there's a birthday festival, and the festival is the Saturday after May 1st. In other words, the first Saturday in May. Birthday is always May 1st, and the festival is whatever the following Saturday is.
Okay.
The festival, birthday honors our unique individuality.
That's tomorrow.
Okay? That's tomorrow.
Okay.
And a birthday festival celebrates our community. It celebrates specifically our historic roots, pre-1900 historic roots, and the people who did it. In other words, what individuals did, how they made under God America of the 19th and 18th centuries, specifically 19th century. But the nice thing is, you know, we know how often critics of America, and there are many, many critics of America, who will always point out the bad things, who will always point out to slavery, whatever. Well, on a birthday, I don't hold a birthday party for you and say, all right, let me tell you all the things that, you know, I don't like about Perry. I celebrate Perry. I celebrate, if Perry were to move away, I would miss him. Why would I miss him? There's a certain thing that is Perry that I celebrate. And so you celebrate the good things. So why can't we do that with America? Why can't we do that with Oregon's history and Josephine County's history and maybe Jackson County's history? Yeah. You know, why can't we celebrate ourselves? And that's what Birthday Festival is about, coming up this Saturday.
This Saturday, and that'll be from 10 until 1. And in the middle of all that, they're going to have a cake race.
Yeah.
What in the world is a cake race?
And by the way, this is at the Boys and Girls Club on the soccer field, assuming it's a sunny day, and please pray for sun. The cake race, part of the birthday festival, which includes a old-time covered wagon, which we got from Boxar Ranch, and thank you for that connection, Perry. And oh gosh, we have, you know, a Pioneer demo of equipment that Pioneers used, and we have a person going to teach Pioneer games to the kids, and someone who explained the covered wagon. But the Cake Fest is part of the overall festival, and the Cake Fest has a couple of different elements. One is a professional cake decorator who's going to do a demo, but the central event is the cake race that you're asking about. And the cake race is we give 3 middle schools and 3 high schools this year. Hopefully we'll get them all next year. We give them 1 hour to decorate a cake. Now, they're allowed to pre-plan it. They're allowed to talk to their art teacher. They're talk to their parents. They're allowed to go talk to chefs and bakers and get whatever advice they want. Come up with a design. The theme is Pioneer Days, and to come up with a theme, obviously a positive theme, and then they can get any help they want from fellow students. But when they take the field, they have to have between 3 and 6 students, and they're judged on design, which includes originality, design, execution, teamwork, and time. So they have to finish within an hour, but the team that if one team finishes in 40 minutes and does a good job, they're going to have an edge. They're going to get points for that. Okay. So it is a race.
All right. So the birthday celebration on the school campuses is tomorrow. Be praying for that, and it should be a great opportunity to just celebrate the uniqueness of an individual. And then the community celebrates birthday with all of these festivities, really kind of like a Pioneer Day coming up. That'll be Saturday, and that's going to be at the park. where?
That's going to be at Boys and Girls Club.
Okay,
on the soccer field.
On the soccer field.
Yeah, and we have cake. A lot of groups are supplying cake for the public. Gospel Rest Commission is supplying a cake. Josephine County Historical Society is. Boys and Girls Club is making 3 cakes. We have. Oh, I got to tell you the coolest thing. Brady Adams, who is one of our leading citizens, you know him, Perry, very well. Brady thought of the idea of cake. He said, well, you know, because we had the pioneer idea, and he said, well, you do ice cream on why don't you do cake? We'll have a big cake thing. And we finally figured out how to handle that. And one of his ideas is we'll get a big cake and we'll cut it up at the end of the ceremony. We'll give it to the public, serve it to the public, and then we'll take pieces of it and deliver it to the senior residences to let them know they're included. Well, guess what? Turns out for dietary reasons, we can't do that. They can't eat the cake. But guess what happened? We realized we needed more cake to serve the public, so the residences decided they'd make us cakes. So we started out wanting to put our arm around them, and the seniors have put their arm around us. Isn't that neat?
All taking place coming up this weekend in Grants Pass. All right, tomorrow on the campuses, Saturday there at the Boys and Girls Club, and that's 203 Southeast 9th Street in Grants Pass. That all starts over the weekend. All right, stick around. We'll take a quick break. We come back. We'll get Bob just into his other mode of commentary in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back with our buddy Bob Just. Nice to have him back with us, and he's busy, of course, with all the things surrounding the birthday event coming up this weekend in Grants Pass. By the way, thank you, Evergreen, and who's the other sponsor you have?
Evergreen Federal and Tap Rock are our major event sponsors.
Well,
we have a lot of friends, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Bob, it's been a while since I've had you in the studio to kind of just jaw with you a little bit. I had a story earlier today. In fact, it was one of the stories that I put up on the screen that Secretary of State John Kerry doesn't seem to be getting any traction. In fact, he's under a lot of fire. Every one of his policies, it appears at the moment to be failing. Ukraine's a mess, an absolute chaos. North Korea is out of control. The Middle East is upside down, and our only ally in the Middle East, Israel, he turns around and says, by the way, to the Trilateral Commission, that it's dangerously close to becoming an apartheid state. And things have erupted. And even some people, as you know, Senator Ted Cruz has called for his resignation over that statement.
Yes, and rightly so.
And probably one of the hottest moments I've ever seen Charles Krauthammer came unglued and basically said, yes, he should resign. In fact, we should demand that he step down over that statement. Right. Now, Juan Williams was trying to throw water on that fire, and that didn't go anywhere because Charles Krauthammer just jumped up and said, you're wrong, and went after him. Anyway, can we tolerate this? This is crazy.
Well, there are two dynamics at work here, and one is the general mess of the Obama administration, because Hillary Clinton is thrashing around trying to find out what she can say positive about her period of time as Secretary of State. And of course, John Kerry inherited that mess and has made it more of a mess. So there's an overall administration dynamic. But let me just address John Kerry first, and particularly the apartheid state comment. This is so grossly unfair. Not only, of course, Israel is our staunch ally in that area, but Israel has many Palestinians, as you know, that live as citizens within their country and have the rights of a citizen.
And are in their government.
Israel, absolutely in their government, and Israel is remarkable in that sense. Compared to the other Middle Eastern countries. Remarkable in its openness and its inclusiveness. So on the face of it, it's an outrageous statement. Then said by Secretary of State and directed toward one of our allies using an analogy of apartheid, which was so horrendous in South Africa. first of all, it's grossly inaccurate. Second of all, it's grossly unfair, and he should resign. You know.
Well, is he having a Joe Biden moment? He opens his mouth and the wrong thing comes out.
I tend to think that something like that was calculated. That's, of course, just a guess.
Somebody said that it was actually a point on a talking point sheet. It was actually one of those points from a Palestinian talking point sheet that they had referenced Israel of dangerously becoming an apartheid state. But you know what's so interesting about this, Bob? He's never said anything that about North Korea. He's never said anything like that to Russia and Putin. He's never said anything like that to Venezuela. I mean, and the list goes on of those who are clearly, you know, against our policy. Our only ally, and the president has said nothing in correcting it. Nothing. To me, he's speaking in behalf of the United States.
He is.
He's clearly speaking in behalf of this administration, and we're sending the signal that we're probably not considering Israel our ally anymore with that kind of a statement.
You know, forgive me for a reference to something I wrote, but I wrote it a long time ago, so it makes a point. I wrote an article called My Un-American Democratic Party, and in that article predicted that the Democratic Party would turn against Israel. It's an inevitable process because of what the Democratic Party has come to represent, which is essentially anti-God. I mean, we all remember the moment in the convention when they basically shouted down the idea of God being in their platform. There's just an inevitable drift of this. The left has sided with radical Islam. We know this from our college campuses. David Horowitz, I mean, you've had on this show, you know, talks about it. The left turning against Israel is inevitable, and Jews, and you know, I grew up Jewish. Jews have to face up to this and stop voting Democrat because the Democratic Party will betray and is betraying Israel. Israel is getting squeezed in terms of our treatment of Iran. They're literally getting squeezed because the window of stopping Iran from becoming nuclear is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And as it gets smaller and smaller, there's more and more pressure on Israel to act. And the United States is the only entity in this world that can join with Israel, pressure Iran, force the issue so that Israel does not have to attack Iran. What we are doing, is, as I perceive it, is just the opposite, thanks to the Obama administration, is we are allowing that time to get so slim. We are basically forcing Israel to attack Iran at some point soon.
Bob, there is so many things with this administration that gives us sleepless nights and a lot of discomfort. And we seem to be past a point of pushback. We seem to be a point where no matter what we do as citizens, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. And our elected officials in Congress, primarily Boehner and others, aren't using their position to push back. And so it seems to be a wholesale gutting of the United States and what we are all about. Now, there's an election coming up. Maybe some of this will be turned around. But there's something crazy. The Obamacare website's a mess. Look at Cover Oregon, complete failure, hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody's calling for an accounting. Nobody's calling for a refund. It's nonsense on steroids. And don't get me wrong, I don't say that to be, I have not given up on this country. Some have. And some are hiding behind some scriptures to make their point. I believe the soul of America is still very strong. We've had our back up against the wall on many occasions, and we will push back. But in the meantime, the damage that has been done is
terrible damage,
unbelievable,
and we're going to pay a price for it. But then we have to remember, if we, you know, when we elect a president, we are electing a commander-in-chief as well as an executive, you know. And the reality is, if we pick the wrong person, we put our country under threat. I just want to say, in your comment, and I can't resist the reference, you know, I went down to visit with Dr. Ben Carson, who joined the National Advisory Board of Concerned Families. And we talked about exactly this, and I was very encouraged by what he said, because, I mean, you and I, of course, have talked about this, and we both resonate with this. And he said, there are just too many good praying Christians in this country, too many people who have been working for decades including the wonderful patch of pastors that came up in the 70s, or including Dr. Dobson, of course, and of course my favorite, Dr. D. James Kennedy, who have worked for, and there's so many in the fields working for, in my community I believe on the edge of revival. So many Christians praying together. This country, as you say, still at heart is a wonderful country. We've been tricked in several horrible ways by the Supreme Court with the separation of church and state decision in the late 40s, with the Roe v. Wade decision in the early 70s. We've been forced to accept something that is a hurt to our heart. And out of that has come, the pro-life movement, Catholics and evangelicals working together. Wonderful things are happening, and so I do believe God is going to bring us back. I don't think this is the end.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
It may be a big flash before the end, who knows?
Well, it's not without damage, but it does create a resolve that otherwise we were letting drift. That we are a great country, the core of us and who we are, what we believe in is still true. And if we put God back in the center, we can get back to what He's called us to do.
Right on.
But I think there is a revival getting ready to occur. Now, how that looks, I don't know. It will be a different, I think that. But there is well, let me put it this way. Of all things we do here on the Dove Radio and television, and all the comments we get when it deals with issues, it comes down to two questions. What is truth, and who can I trust?
Right. Yeah,
well, that's the gospel.
Great. Yeah, truly.
That's the gospel. And so, but I sense that there is going to be a pushback. I hope we hold on to, I hope we end up being nice about it. We're dangerously close to being angry and losing our cool. We have to be civil about this pushback, don't you think?
Yeah, and something that's on my mind a lot because of going into the high school tomorrow is that we know we're going to encounter a lot of sullen kids. We know that there are a lot of kids, and when they see all these men, including some firefighters and law enforcement with us, wearing Concerned Fathers Against Crime hats, that's what we'll be wearing. We know there are kids, the statistics are staggering about kids who have huge father issues. Either absent father, no father, troubles with father. There's going to be a lot of anger and a lot of frustration and sullenness on some kids' faces. And we have to return that with love. And we have to do that, just what you're saying, nationally. That's what we have to do. You and I are always saying the left is really, for the most part, they believe a false ideology, but it's more than just their false ideology. It's also that they are vastly a broken people. They're angry, they're frustrated, and they don't know who to blame. And of course, the Democratic Party is very good at saying blame conservatives. Blame. And we have to return this as the Bible says in King James, making mouths. And Jesus says they were making mouths at me. That anger, when they turn that anger on us, we have to return that with love. We have to respond to that with love. And that's our challenge as Christians, because they have to see Christ in us.
Yeah. Well, Bob, you're a delight. Thank you for coming by. By the way, congratulations on a big event. All of this starts tomorrow at the high school. Well, all the schools. I say, how many schools?
Well, about 8 schools. We hope to get them all next year. 8
schools there in the Grants Pass area. And then Saturday, don't forget, Saturday's the big day. And that'll be over at the Boys and Girls Club Park. And that'll be from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon.
And the cake race starts at 10:30. So if you have friends in middle school and high school, get over there.
Oh, the cake race.
The cake race.
The cake race. All right, that'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Thank you, Perry.
All right, thanks, bud. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market. But at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, I tell you what, I am delighted to have back with us today on Focus Today our good friend Bradlee Dean. He's an ordained preacher. He's a drummer. He's a talk show host. He has Sons of Liberty Radio. He's the founder of You Can Run But You Can't Hide International. He tours and holds rallies on campuses in both high school and college. And I just love his passion. So it's been a while since we've had him on, and I want to get caught up on all the things he's been experiencing. But first of all, Bradlee, God bless you, pal. Good to see you. And congratulations on your Education Liberty Award.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Of course, I'm not looking for accolade, but it's nice when it comes, right?
Well, what is it? What'd you get it for?
We got it from a guy named Rob Cunningham out of Georgia, and they're very involved in the school districts out there, and they're beginning to bring forth a national swell concerning the Common Core issues in public schools. And they just took acknowledgement of who we were and what it is that we've done across the country in public high schools. And they just said, you know what, we got to really acknowledge this situation. And he called me up and said, what do you think of this? And I said, my friend, I'm not looking for accolades or merit. I said, I'm looking for a future and a hope for our posterity. And I said, that's my crown of rejoicing. But I said, if you want to do something like that, I said, that's great. Just not looking for it, but I do appreciate it.
Well, congratulations and well-deserved. Hey, you just did a tour of Arizona and California. What was your purpose of this last tour?
To get out of Minnesota, and I'll tell you why. It was 11 inches of snow last week. We went into Phoenix. We left that Monday. Got to Phoenix. It was 99 degrees.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, we left Phoenix 2 days ago, and we came back to more snow. It's not stained, but of course it's still Minnesota right now, but we're doing good.
All right. So were you on campuses? Where'd you go?
We actually flew into Mesa. We did the biggest tea party in this country. After we did that, we went over to Los Angeles the same night, did a bunch of radio interviews with Jesse Lee Peterson, Joe Messina. We were going to do some television with Dr. Gina Loudon. That got canceled, so we ended up coming back to Arizona, did another tea party, and then we were invited to the Phoenix Gun Show, which was the first one I've ever done before. Kind of bizarre, Perry, but it was cool to be a part of it. And then we came back home after that, and we're fixing to go back to Georgia to do more high schools and tea parties and church events down there now.
All right, great. Hey, I got a lot of little things here I want to talk to you about. First of all, as you know, former mayor of New York, Bloomberg, is going to go after the NRA with a ton of money, and that kind of relates to you being to that gun show. This is unbelievable. What's your response to that? Because I know you had one.
Well, if you take a look at Michael Bloomberg and those that he's setting himself up against, in alliance against the American people, you're finding out these mayors are criminals within their own ranks. For example, tax evaders, child pornography, one assaulted a cop, and you can just look at the whole, I don't want to say conspiracy, but the alliance that he's making with these other mayors. If the American people would simply pull back the curtain on these mayors, you're going to find out those that have been put in a position to represent we the people are actually criminals themselves that are set against the Constitution that they themselves swore to uphold. The American people are aware of what's going on with this gun issue. There's no question. This administration's been relentless in aiming at Article 2 of the Bill of Rights. And I believe that the American people are wide awake to what's going on. And I just don't know. Like I said, I did a gun show in Phoenix. These are the kind of people, Perry, that are just, their backs are up against the wall. They're not moving. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think we're wide awake. And as they say, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And this is what I'm seeing across the country. We're allowing their cruelty to swell our ranks, and that's exactly what I'm seeing, is our ranks are being swelled.
I've always said that if there was ever going to be any kind of an insurrection, it would probably boil up out of the Second Amendment issue, but it now seems to be more widespread than that, Bradlee. We've been watching this whole situation in Nevada with the rancher Bundy there, but the militia came to his aid. Now, all of that is really touchy, and some of the issues behind it are still controversial. But the bottom line is this intrusiveness of the government. And I would say the whole BLM issue is up for question as to whether or not even that's constitutional. But your thoughts on the fact that so many people showed up for Mr. Bundy's defense?
Oh, I thought it was great. Just like you said, I don't know a whole lot about Cliven Bundy, but I do know if we take a look at history, Waco, Texas, for example, I know that there's a whole lot of people that are well aware of as to what took place during Waco. By the way, if you look at the Clinton administration, that was who was responsible for Waco. And if you look at Barack Hussein Obama's administration, it's Clinton's administration tried and true in the crimes against we the people. So I believe what happened is the American people stood up. As a matter of fact, right when I heard about this, Perry, the first thing I said on the radio is, folks, we need to funnel into this man's aid to make sure Waco doesn't happen again. And sure enough, radio show hosts across the country were saying the same thing. And by the way, that is the reason that we won the day. But for the federal government to send forth a bill collector with snipers in the military, and then only to find out that Harry Reid's selling land to the Chinese, America, 2 + 2 = 4. And I think what we need to do is bring about resolve. Justice is the guardian of liberty. And what we need to do is deal with corruption in the politicians that are actually advocating these crimes against we the people. I thought it was great. And again, just going back to your original question, Cliven Bundy, I do not know a whole lot about him, but that is not how the federal government's supposed to respond to someone that owes a bill.
All right, I want to skip over to a radio show where you were talking about how others are blaming God for all the evil in the world. And you had quite a response to that. And you're sensing it, I'm sensing, I'm seeing it. It seems like if there's something bad, then it's God's fault.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is. As a matter of fact, blaming God for the evils in this world is like blaming the sun for darkness. And really, that's what it comes down to. For example, when the Lord said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," well, America allowed in 1962 the Supreme Court to basically usurp the Constitution and say no to God in public schools. We've seen what they did in prayer because they said it was not a permissible objective for the students to actually study the 10 Commandments. Well, the American people stood down when they should have stood up, and the Supreme Court committed an oligarchy, voting in favor of less than 3% of the population, and ignored the voice of 90% of we the people, and they said, leave God and the Mosaic Institution alone. Well, since then, what have we seen? We've seen an influx of foreign gods into this country, attempting to implement, for example, Sharia law. And if you look in the book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 8, I believe it is, he said, when other gods are within the gate, there's going to be war. Now, wait a second. If there's war within the gates, then how is that God's fault when he said, thou shalt have no other gods before me? And so that's where people come off. And then what I did is in this particular article on WND last week, Perry, is I just went down the line of the 10 Commandments. And I said, are you guilty of this? Are you guilty of violating number 2 all the way to 10? And if you are, therein lies our responsibility for the evils that we committed, because what we have done is we have departed from the living God. When he said, thou shalt not, that's exactly what he meant. And the bottom line is, if we want to disobey God, we don't turn and point our finger back at the Creator that gave us the law because he loves to preserve life, and then only to turn him and smack him in the face. It just doesn't fly that way. And I want to give the resolve. Our bill number 1, Exodus 20 of the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt have no other gods. America's allowed other gods. And I just want to say this. There's none other name under heaven whereby men might be saved, and his name is Jesus Christ. If we stick to that plan, we're going to be okay. But what happens? They depart, and then we get in trouble.
That is beautiful.
You like that?
Yeah. Thank you. I can't add anything to it. It's just wonderful. Before I take a break, there's another thing that seems to be going on. Just all of a sudden, so many faith-based movies are coming out.
Yeah.
You know what? I just interviewed Bishop T.D. Jakes. He's the co-producer behind Heaven is for Real.
Yes.
I had a great time with him and kind of caught him off base on some issues that you and I talk about. I have to tell you about that sometime. But anyway, the point is that movie hit over the weekend, did extremely well. What's your thoughts about what's going on with the movie industry?
I actually went and seen it. As a matter of fact, I even went and seen God is Not Dead. And Kevin Sorbos, as a matter of fact, was just out at my place not too long ago, actually about 4, 5, 6 months ago, him and his wife, and we went out to eat. And I didn't know anything about Kevin Sorbo. Speaking of God is Not Dead, I went and seen the movie, and to be honest with you, Perry, I was blown away. That guy is an A+ actor in that movie. And I called his wife about a week and a half ago, and I'm trying to get him on the radio right now just to high five him, because it was second to none. And usually when you see Christian movies, it's a little cheesy, or it's second place to other movies. This one was first class. I then went and seen Heaven is for Real. And what a cute little man. And when I seen that movie, there was certain parts of it, I just got to tell you, I could start crying. Like every time I'm on the show with you here, Harry, I just get the same anointing. But when the little boy talked about how the Lord was marked, and he said he had marks on his hands and on his feet, I was so overcome in that movie theater. I was really glad that I was in a dark place where nobody could see the way that I was responding. If I would have been by myself, I would have cried like a baby. It was that strong, and I'm very happy to see the stuff that's coming out right now. And I could expound on Heaven is for Real for another 15 minutes. I was so impressed with that movie.
Yeah, the reviews have been wonderful. The response has been great. You know, Hollywood is still trying to figure this thing out. They did the Noah thing, and it was hugely controversial, as you well know. In fact, you were at the NRB. You probably saw a lot of the controversy over it. I don't know if people use it as a conversation starter, but the actual production was really, it was sad.
Yeah, well, they said of the movie Noah, it was an actual atheist that directed the movie. So therein, you already know what the end's going to be. And I just think it's interesting Hollywood takes its time to just continuously mock the things of God. And yet, if they would just pay attention to what's going on, don't they realize that it's raining? And just like I've said so many times concerning the movie Noah, everybody mocks God concerning Noah. Look at Noah's over there obeying God, building an ark, how foolish it's not raining. It's funny until it starts to rain, Perry. And let me tell you what, it is raining judgment in America. And I'll tell you what, Hollywood, for a great portion of that, is responsible for the evils that are brought forth on the American people. But I do have to say this, the American people need to take responsibility and shut it down, because somebody's supporting Hollywood in their endeavors to destroy this country. And I've had enough of it. As a matter of fact, I also wanted to say, too, concerning the movie Noah, it was interesting, the reviews from the Christians in agreement with that movie. And of course, that's what they're going to actually, bring to the American public. But the Christians really liked it, too. Let me tell you this. If you agreed with the movie Noah, you don't know the Word of God whatsoever. There's just no way around it.
Wow. All right, let me take a quick break, Bradlee, and we'll be right back. Bradlee Dean's with us, and we got a lot more to talk about in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and with our good friend Bradlee Dean. Love this man and what he does. And, even though he's in Minnesota, and he's in Arizona, we need to get him to Oregon. We need to get some sponsors and bring him in here and have him work through the college campuses and the high schools in Oregon. So if you're interested in that, get a hold of me. In the meantime, how can people get a hold of you, Bradlee?
You can go to youcanruninternational.com to see what we've done in high schools and colleges. YouCanRunInternational.com if you'd like to listen to us 6 days a week. It's sonsoflibertyradio.com. Sonsoflibertyradio.com. As a matter of fact, right now we got the #1 show on Saturdays, not bad after 2 years, and we got the #2 and 3 show during the week, right behind a guy who's been there for 14 years, and he's got 2 million listeners. So God's paying attention to these young punks, and I appreciate that.
Don't be so hard on yourself. All right, now... all right, I want to reach down and squeeze your heart again. I'm trying to figure out how we convey your passion into action, which really means revival. We need to push back, but we need to pray down. Have you figured out how to do that?
Yeah, drop down, you heavens, and pour forth your spirit that righteousness and salvation spring forth. He talks about that in Isaiah. Talks about in Joel. He said, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters, they shall prophesy. Your young men shall have dreams, and your old men visions and dreams. And it's interesting. That's my daily prayer. And John Wesley, the great field preacher, I believe he was a prophet in England. He's the guy that said he used to set himself on fire every morning so the world can come watch him burn. I think the problem with what's going on in this country, only to bring about the resolve, is like Hudson Taylor, the great missionary, said, every great work of God goes in 3 steps. First, it's impossible, then it's difficult, then it's done. I think what happens, Perry, is people stop in the middle. People want the crown, but they don't want the cross. And if we're not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ because it's the power of God unto salvation, then we have to stay the course. And perseverance means a state of grace, a continuance in a state of grace until preceded by a state of glory. Friends, grace stays the track, it stays the course until he's glorified. And if we suffer with him, we shall also be glorified with him. And the way to do that is, first of all, is stand on the Bible. Lord, I'm wrong, you're right. Draw a circle around you in that Bible and say, Lord, revive everything in this circle. Because without you, I can do nothing. I need the Holy Ghost because it's a work of faith with power. And Scripture tells us that men are not to find their faith in the wisdom of men's words, but in the power and in the demonstration of the Spirit of the Most High God. Now, keep in mind, it was Jesus that said, greater works will you do than I did because I go unto my Father. And when we think about that, it was also the Father that said, call unto me, and I will answer, and I will show you great and mighty things in which you know not. As a matter of fact, in the book of Psalms, he said through David, open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. We know what God's end is. If we aim small, we're going to miss small. And what is it? What is his heart? It's always people. And we're not to pray that the Lord will send forth laborers in 4 months because the harvest is in 4 months. He said, no, pray that the Father will send forth laborers into the field. And I want to be a part of that answer. And then I go over to Isaiah, and it says that to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? To them that believe the report of the Lord. Believe is a verb. Stay the course. Don't stop. Ask the Lord to endue you with power from on high. And get out there and let him send you. For as many are led by the Spirit of God, yea, these are sons of God.
Are we prepared to go out and get them and bring them in? We seem like we're just sitting in waiting for them to come in, and we think, well, if they'll change, then they can come in, when actually they need to come in to change.
Well, that's exactly right. I just seen Ray Comfort last week, spent a little time with him. Tell Ray that. And the bottom line is, you know, we're doing the same thing, just a different demographic. But the bottom line is they're there for the taking. And every place I go, Perry, I got to be quite honest with you, I'm tracking everywhere I go. There is a trail. I don't care if I'm in Phoenix. I don't care if I'm in an airport. You will find a trail all the way back to Bradlee Dean because I want to make sure that I make the most of my time before I stand in front of my Heavenly Father. And when you look at our forefathers, speaking of which, John Adams, who sat under thousands of Puritan preachers, his whole motivation was the fact that he feared God, a filial fear, not a diabolical fear, as a son to a father, because a wise son maketh a glad father. Yes, they're there for the taking. The question is how much do you love God? And to the degree that you love God will be to the degree that you put your hand out to mankind. And if you've been saved, how can you not but share the witness of Jesus Christ, which, by the way, is the spirit and the gift of prophecy?
I saw something the other day, Bradlee, and maybe you saw it too, and I'll just paraphrase it, that young people, primarily the millennials, now have such a distrust for government that they don't think that they're looking for truth, but they have a total distrust for government. It's not a disdain, they just don't trust it. So, and here comes you come onto a campus, you begin to show them that, hey, wait a minute, there's a part of this country history that you've never been told. God has been from the very beginning in this country. Do you think young people are getting it?
When you give it, the problem is there's very few that are willing to give it. And those that have been born in the fire, they don't settle for the smoke, right, Perry? and I really think that if you understand the younger generation, I understand them only for the purpose that I was one of them. And I'm only a generation ahead of them. I'm not an old man yet. I'm catching up to the wise. But in saying that, I just understand them and I love them enough to actually reach out to them and love them with the truth without compromise. And I think that's another equation as to what the problem in America is. There's too much compromise going on. The church in America talks much of love, but there's very little demonstrated. Speaking of the younger generation, and I've shared this with you in the past, 86% of those that complain about the educational scheme in this country, they're Christians, conservatives, and or patriots that are actually dropping their students off at the school gate. So there's a whole lot of hypocrisy going on. But here's the other part. The younger generation also has to, quit pointing the finger of blame at other people. We have to take responsibility for everything, because when we talk about government, we need to understand that God first gave government through Moses, Exodus 18:21. That's called common law. The Declaration of Independence is the seedbed. And when you begin to look at all the landmarks across the country, that's why you see Moses everywhere. Now, we also have to understand in reading the Declaration of Independence that those that serve we the people drive their just powers from the consent of we the people. It's not us against the government. If we don't trust the government, it means we need to respond to God, and by obligating ourselves to duty to correct the problem, because we in government are in this together, not apart.
Man, you're anointed. I can't add anything to that. That is just beautifully said. So young people are also growing up without anybody leading them. They're getting all their information off these tablets and the phones. If they want information, they want to look something up, it's instant. They're not getting it from older folks. Is that a problem?
You know what? Wisdom is justified by her children, my friend. You're getting me again here. The anointing's just dropping here again, Perry.
Yeah.
Wisdom is justified by her children. We see more than anything, almost on a daily basis in this ministry, where the older generation say, you know, to blank with them, to HE double hockey sticks, and they complain about the younger generation, and we have to look at the older generation and say, who raised up that generation that you're complaining about? And we can't allow them to be subjected to everything and protected from nothing and expect a good crop. And the bottom line is, again, my friend, is we just need to take responsibility, namely the older generation. When I do tea parties across the country, which is a great, it's piggybacking off what I'm saying here. We don't see young people there. And the first thing I tell them is where is the young people? Where are the college students? They're our future. And if we don't sow into our future, guess what? They're going to be there later on to curse us. And that's exactly what we're seeing through this administration today. And Barack Hussein Obama, my friends, has enough common sense to go to the younger generation. He's on college tours, and the older generation is partying it up like they're going to an Elvis concert. And I have to tell them that Elvis died in 1977.
Wow. All right. I got about a minute and a half here. You've been giving us your heart, but what's left in your heart? What's God telling you?
I believe we can do this. If I didn't believe that we could do this, I wouldn't get up tomorrow. I wouldn't get up the next day. I wouldn't have gotten up over the last 19 years. If I can do 350 high schools with a team of 12 people, can you imagine what we could do if 300 of us were conglomerated together in the same cause and the same purpose? When we look back at our forefathers, the flags that were flying were no king but King Jesus and appeal to heaven. 56 signers with 13 colonies. God established America 238 years later. Here we are. God is willing to give us what we're willing to fight for. Less than 3% of America was used to establish what we have today. Less than 1.7% of the population today is being used to curse us today. If we look at Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26, we can prophetically see exactly where we're at today. But I believe, again, if God did it for Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David, Gideon, so on and so forth, he'll do it for us too, but we have to meet him on his terms.
Wow, beautifully said. Bradlee, you're an inspiration. Once we get settled in our new studios, I think you need to come to Oregon, and you and I need to do about 13 weeks of television programs and syndicate it. I mean that.
Amen. We're there.
All right. All right. Again, youcanruninternational.com.
Correct.
Youcanruninternational.com. Check it out. And he's got a lot of stuff there going on, and let's pray about getting him out here to Oregon. You know, one other closing thing, and this was kind of out of the ballpark a little bit. John Kerry, you heard the comment that he made about Israel dangerously becoming an apartheid state. What has that done to us worldwide in saying our relationship to Israel?
Well, I just think it's dangerous business. Touch not mine anointed is what the Lord had said. And when you look at Israel, matter of fact, I was there in 1992. You listen to some of the stories of the carnal men, the generals of God that want to go ahead and touch God's people. You want to touch that state of Israel? It's not a good idea to do that, because God will defend his own. And let me say it this way. God is defending its own. And whenever you see a country rise up against Israel, just look at the fruit of that nation. And I'll tell you what, most people with a little common sense, Perry, will think twice before touching God's anointed. It's just not a good idea. America needs to get back on course and get back on par with Israel. And if we don't do that, I fear for America.
Love you, man.
You too, man. Appreciate you, Perry.
All right. God bless you, pal. See you soon. All right. Bradlee Dean. Again, check it out. Youcanruninternational.com. go there, support him, and let's think about getting him out here. All right, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.